There's another thing, turning up 4.5 pounds overweight. You haven't got a team around you to advise you, and you come across like he does. He very much comes across with the attitude of he doesn't give a shit. I think that makes it worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, he did a dab or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he did something stupid, like just...
He's done his dab and 20%.
I know, and I'm like, don't do it. And then he bust his nose, like, went really bad. He looked like a pirate coming out of the cage. His nose had gone over his eye.
I like Jake Hadley as a fighter a lot. He intrigues me a lot.
I like him too, but it's not going to stop me smashing his face.
Well, I was going to say...
Hi guys, Cody Davis here, 10-0 undefeated professional boxer from Wales. Just finished my podcast with Ace Podcast Nation. Subscribe at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation for the best content on all the Welsh boxing shows, all Welsh sport, and Welsh boxing and sport in general. All the best.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten!
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 50. 50, we are there. And what a better way to celebrate 50 episodes than a very special guest, as well as talking UFC 255 from last night and a host of other news and stuff. But you can watch the video versions of this show and all the other shows that we do at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation, and the audio versions are available for download at all the podcast and radio platforms that you can think of. But with no further ado, first of all, joining me is, as ever, my usual co-host, ex-Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, Mr. Daniel Batten. Welcome, buddy. How are we?
Yeah, I'm very good, Si. So it's great to have Mr. Shanks on.
The champ.
I miss this guy, man.
Indeed, and our guest this evening is Luke the Apocalypse Shanks, the reigning Cage Warriors Flyweight champion. How goes it, Luke? You alright, buddy?
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really been looking forward to this, because obviously got a big fight coming up. You have with a certain Mr. Jake Hadley, who was impressive himself in the last Cage Warriors trilogy, as were you. You had two very different fights in that event.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, no, White Fong's good. He's good at promoting himself. And, yeah. But,
yeah, so obviously you had a five-rounder, didn't you? And you dominated it from start to finish. I think his was all over in, 30 seconds?
Yeah, no matter what he does, I'm just going to one-up him every time. And that's what keeps happening. It's like he scores a first-round knockout and then starts talking crap about me. And I'm standing there backstage getting ready to walk out. I just thought, how can I overdo him? So I went and scored the most dominant win in history. Yeah. And then... I just said, I was pretty humble at the end. I wanted to say a load of stuff about him, but I thought we'll keep it nice and we'll get in there.
Yeah, I guess I think from a fan's point of view, from my point of view, like I'm looking at it and I'm thinking of all the fights the Cage Warriors could have made for this next trilogy, that was the one I was hoping for, because obviously, like say, you dominated for 5 rounds. You don't see that very often. Obviously, you broke records. You don't see that very often anyway. But to see it in a title fight, I think is even more unusual for a title fight to be so one-sided. Dan, did you remember a title fight being that one-sided before?
You don't see
which isn't over in like a minute or something.
Yeah, you don't see it very often, and you'll be left looking up into your head to try and search for a fight that was so dominant at that sort of level. I mean, this is Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors are becoming known as that feeder show to the UFC, which is, not a bad position to have an event at. And that means you're going to get the top tier European fighters fighting on it to try and get that position in UFC. So everyone in there is the real deal. And to dominate in the way that Luke did was really quite something. I know what he was capable of. I knew what he was capable of totally. And it reminded me of Luke's performance. I think it was your first ever pro fight up in Scotland. Funny enough, now you're living up there. And you absolutely steamrolled this guy. Absolutely, and he was an experienced guy, wasn't he? Good striker.
Yeah, I've actually been training with him again. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. But that was another one where you put your foot down on the gas and just did not let up. So I know that this was not a fluke performance. The guy didn't underperform. I know this is something that you force guys into, and that is to play a game of survival. And the guy did survive. I'll give him that. But he didn't get any attacks off of his own. Maybe a couple of leg kicks, but you adjusted your strategy, and you never allowed those leg kicks to become anything that was going to truly threaten you. It was incredible, and I've watched back the fight several times, trying to think what this guy could have done to change what you was doing to him, and with his technical capabilities and his strategical capabilities at that time, it was just not possible for him to make any adjustments to come back at you. So well done, to you and your camp. I speak highly of your coach and your team, and you're all doing absolutely amazing, really doing amazing.
We might see some American fighters in Cage Warriors very soon. Obviously, Graham Boylan and Cage Warriors have been granted a license for the US. Cage Warriors is looking to expand into America in 2021. That could open some interesting fights, Stan, because what you could find is maybe guys in the UFC who aren't getting fights for when everything's back up and running, they'll have like a top tier place to go and get some fights in.
Yeah, I do get you. I mean, I'm presuming that they're going to run Cage Warrior events in America. Is that what you're saying? Right,
yeah,
okay,
that's what I'm led to believe. And
right, yeah, I don't mind that idea so much. I just don't like the idea of Cage Warriors being hijacked and getting a load of American champions that go off then to UFC, because in America you've got loads of fight events that they can grow their records on. I know we're in strange times at the minute, but at the moment I think it's a great way for European fighters to get recognition and then go out to fight predominantly in the United States. I mean, they've got a massive pool of American fighters. I just don't want to see it getting hijacked.
Do you know what? Do you want to know what my and this is, I must stipulate, seeing as like obviously you've both got heavy links to Cage Warriors, so I don't want to put you in any awkward position. This is purely me and my speculation. I think that the only reason they're going down that route, or one of the reasons they're going down that route, is one, to provide UFC Fight Pass with more content, and two, basically it provides UFC with another vehicle in America as like without having to put on a UFC show, if that makes sense. And it'll still be a Cage Warrior show, but also I do think it opens up some really interesting doors. So say like Luke next year could go and, if he gets through Jake Hadley, could go and defend his title against an American flyweight on a Cage Warrior show or whatnot. And what you've got to remember is the UFC is one of the few companies in the whole world their athletes have been allowed to travel around the world. So if Cage Warriors, which is obviously linked to the UFC, are able to travel out to America and stuff, you can open up things like training camps and shows and things like this, which you maybe cannot do at the moment.
Yeah, but that's
travel restrictions.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I'm not so comfortable with. I don't want to see people like Luke Shanks fighting Americans on Cage Warriors. I want to see him fight these guys in UFC.
Yeah, depends who it is, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't want them to create like a Division 2 UFC in the form of Cage Warriors. That's what worries me with this.
Yeah, well, I think...
Yeah, my first thoughts... Well, my first thoughts on it were, with all those options there, like, every state's got their own big show. And I don't know if I'm wrong or right on this, but I was thinking they were getting paid a hell of a lot more money. Say Titan, for instance, that's quite a big show over there. That's the equivalent of Cage Warriors. They're getting like, I know Brett John's got a lot more money on there before he went to the UFC than what he would have done on Cage Warriors. And why would you put yourself in these like situations? Like, because obviously me and Hadley are both better than UFC fights, but we're just doing it to get that crown in Europe. We don't care about. We're not fighting to just get in the UFC. Anyone can get in there. You can fly over to America, hang around at Jacksonville, get in on a late notice fight. But we're trying to like make ourselves the best in Europe. And then when you go there, everyone knows you're the best in Europe. You're the undisputed. But yeah, it's just going to be. I don't know how it's going to work, but it sounds exciting to see it unfold next year. Anyway.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, anything which makes Cage Warriors a bigger stage is ultimately should be better for the fighters, for the coaches, for everyone all around. But I'm saying that I do understand what you're saying, Dan, about you've got the possibility of diluting it a little bit, which you obviously don't want. But anything for me, if Cage Warriors is bigger, the fighters should then get paid more, which is good, because I think we all agree that fighters in any promotion around the world, including the UFC, Bellator, they don't get paid enough.
Yeah. Look. I've got obviously guys that are in Cage Warriors, so I don't want to be seen to be talking badly about them. The promotion's been great for me, obviously with my career and so on and so forth. But one thing I do know is that they certainly don't pay the fighters enough money.
Well, I think we could say that about everyone, isn't it? It's not just Cage Warriors, it's UFC, Bellator. Unless you're Conor McGregor, you ain't getting paid enough.
We can go back over 15 years, and I was getting paid over double what some of the fighters are getting paid today. Back when Dougie Truman was running it. Now, that's just crazy. I was getting $1,500 to $2,000
mate.
Every fight, and then they're not getting nowhere near that, and they've got to pay for their safe MMA. Now, Mark Goddard, I went to... Sorry?
Making you pay no ticket sales at the minute. They're making you pay for your own hotel room.
Really harsh. And I think it's partly because these youngsters are trying to prove themselves so hard because they want that dream ticket to UFC, and they know that, and they know these guys are fighting for practically nothing. Now, here's my issue regards them going to the States, that if they carry on with that kind of condition, what are they actually paying the American fighters? And in America, they can get sponsorship that can subsidize their low fight purses. There's a lot more options regards to the American fighters, and that means people like Luke Shanks are going to be fighting full-blown pro athletes. And when I say that, I mean in terms of training full-time. And poor Luke's struggling to work full-time jobs here and there.
I'm full-time. I've been full-time.
Okay, I get that, but there's many of you, and it's not been an easy road for you to get to that point. I know your struggles. You've been through some hard situations, and to me, it wouldn't be a fair thing to put up against each other. The Americans are some of the top fighters in the world, as we know, and to be a slight degree down on them because you've got other issues regards working and so on and so forth. It's going to be hard for anyone from Europe to compete, especially at those low wages.
Yeah, obviously, like you say that, my pro, the only pro loss I've got, that was the same thing. It was like you get offered a contract on a show and they're paying more than everyone else, Bama. And then I took it on the 4 days notice, broken nose, got to cut the 10 kilograms.
Remember.
And I'm thinking, whatever, I'll get the contract. And then the whole show folds. So not only have I put that loss on my record for life, I haven't got anything out of it. It's like
I told you not to do it, Luke. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, Si, this guy, I was dead against him taking the fight. But
you know what contracts are like, man. You want a contract.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, don't do it. And then he busted his nose, went really bad. He looked like a pirate coming out of the cage. His nose had gone over his eye. And I'm like, Luke, just don't do this fight, mate. He had to cut a lot of weight. He was out of training, got this broken nose, and he still went in there. But that's Luke for you.
Well, that loss, like being in there, that gave me a serious kick up the arse, man. I didn't want to feel that ever again. And the crazy thing when this fight was announced was it's the same damn venue. I didn't want to go back to that venue ever again in my life. you know that old boxing one. I can't remember what it's called, but it's that old boxing legend.
Your call.
Yeah. I never wanted to go back there, but it's almost fate's brought me back, and I get to redeem it in the same venue. I'll put the same beat in what I got on someone else.
So, Luke, just lastly on your fight with Jake Hadley, A couple of things, like how's the kind of the build up to it been and everything? Is it just sort of weight cutting now and then away to go?
Yeah, the Cage Warriors crew, they're coming up for a day to do a full filming, and they're like, they were saying to me they're going to do it properly, like the UFC. In between fights, they're going to promote the main card, so I'm getting all the promotion I need, so they're going to treat me well. And obviously, it's the best fight around in Europe. He signed to Conor McGregor's management company about a year ago, and he'd been begging to get straight in the UFC ever since. And he was begging after my fight. And I knew right then and there, if I didn't put on a clinic, he's going to go straight to the UFC and take all my shine from that show, talking shit about me.
Yeah.
It'll make it like he's the big guy. So I thought, oh no, you ain't taking my spot in the UFC. So I smashed that guy purposely so I'd get this fight. And I'm sure he don't want that fight, because why would he want it? He's getting less money. He was going to go to the UFC. Is it with Paradigm? That's basically a get out of jail free ticket. You go there regardless. If he loses against me, he will go to the UFC for sure. And it will just be like he had a little hiccup. If I lose, I'm at the bottom of the pile, and that ain't happening, man. I ain't getting stuck at the bottom of that pile again, because it's not a pile of shit. It's a good pile. So
sure.
Being up there, I want to be one of the flies on top.
So what I want to do before we move away from Cage Warriors is I'm going to pick a couple of fights which I like, and I'm going to ask you guys to give me your predictions on who's going to win. If you want to add in how it's going to finish, or a decision or whatever, you are more than welcome. We'll start with the flyweight title match between Luke Shanks and Jake Hadley. Luke, how is that going to go?
Well, I can't give away. I'm not saying nothing, because I know.
Just say win or lose. Just stick it at that.
The arm's going to be raised, and I'm not saying the round or anything, because I don't want to give up anything. But yeah, my arm's getting raised, and his face is going to be black and blue.
What about you, Danny? What you got in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet against Luke, really. I do think it's a really intriguing matchup, in all honesty. And in my mind, I know what kind of game plans each should be looking for up against each other. And it's going to come down to who's got the strongest mind. And like I say, Luke is not normal type of character. He's a bit different in many ways. But one thing I know is Luke's the real deal. He's a proper serious character, and he ain't backing down for nothing. And when he wants it, he does whatever it takes to go and get it. So I'm going to have to go for Luke.
Look, for me, if Jake was against any other flyweight, I would probably back Jake Hadley. Because I have been really impressed with his striking and his all-round skills. But having seen Luke's last couple of fights, Luke, particularly the one, the 5-rounder, just the dominance, and obviously speaking to Luke and speaking to yourself and stuff, I just think that Luke will be too much for him. So I think that's the way there. Another one on that opening night is Adam Armasinger versus Sam Creasy. I'm interested in that one. Obviously, we've had Sam on the show. Danny, we'll start with you this time. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, well, I'm training with Sam Creasy, and if he sticks to sort of game plan and the ideas that we've been talking about, he will get the win. But he's got to stick religiously to it. He can't veer off to old ways. So yeah, I mean, Armasinger is really been impressing me of late. He's really creating an all-rounded game. But I have seen chinks in his armour, and that's been discussed and that's been planned for. So yeah, it's just a case of doing what's being done in training, and the win will go to Sam.
And Luke, how do you see that one going?
Yeah, they're both brilliant, and I wouldn't put any money on it, and because I like them both, but I want to fight them both as well. So I'm not going to place my bets on that one. But it's going to be a good fight for sure.
Absolutely,
100%. And then on the Friday, we've got friend of the show, Aaron Aaron King Khalid versus Justin Burlinson at welterweight. Luke, how do you got any way you see that one going?
I don't actually know Burlinson, but I think is he unbeaten 5-0 or something?
I'd have to double check. I think he might be.
I think he's unbeaten 5-0, and he's fighting a guy 10-5 in Khalid. But Khalid's been a bit of a wild guy in his early on in his career.
Yeah, and, he's much improved now.
Together now, yeah. So yeah. I think he's too good for a 5-0 guy, but we'll see.
Yeah, what about you, Dan? How do you see that one going? Because Aaron has looked a different fighter in these last couple of fights.
If we see him the way we have been seeing him, I can't see this going the distance. I think Khalid's going to create a stoppage either late in round 2 or mid round 3. I think he's going to just overwhelm this guy.
I reckon a submission on.
Yeah,
I think so. Submission from Mr. Khalid. The main event of that Friday is Natajas Frederick, who's the champion, facing Jamie Richardson for the middleweight title. Are we going to see a new middleweight champion there, gentlemen, do you think? What do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know too much about the person who's challenging.
Richardson.
He's actually got Ramsey in a jiu-jitsu competition. He's been on the grappling scene.
Yeah. But I'm not too sure what the striking side of things are. So I'm going to stick with a champion on this one.
What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a whitewash. I think Jamie Richardson's quite a small middleweight. He should probably be a welterweight. And that Natajas Frederick's huge. I think there's going to be a huge size difference. And he's just a genetically gifted guy too.
Yeah, he's very, very good. Very impressive. Obviously, there's a lot of other fights, but I just wanted to pick out a couple. Then on the Saturday, we've got a couple of title fights and a couple of other fights. So we'll go with, I'm going to pick, Ian Gary versus Lawrence Tracy at welterweight. Danny, how do you see that one?
Let's go Lawrence Tracy. But, this is a little bit of a guessing one. On these two. But, that's where I'm steering.
I'm a big fan of Ian Gary, I gotta say. So I'm going to go with him. What about you, Luke? Got a preference or a pick there?
Yeah, no. I'll go with Gary. That head kick knockout over that guy was great. The McManus brothers, they're legit guys. So getting a head kick knockout and making him quit is impressive.
For sure. Then we have Paul Hughes versus Jordan Vucinic. That is going to be a fight. Luke, which way do you see that one going?
Yeah, I think Paul's sort of taking the Conor McGregor road of things, trash talking, and I don't think he's going to live up to the hype in this one. And obviously Jordan's great, and I went back and trained, and Jordan was like phenomenal. Like wrestling was on point, everything was great. So yeah, I'm going Jordan. And I don't think that Aimable fight gave him any justice, because Aimable was great. So getting a win over Aimable, I don't think Paul Hughes would beat Aimable.
I thought Aimable really, really upped his game as well in that fight. Like he put on a.
He didn't want to lose again. He's not a journeyman. He wanted that win.
Yeah, for sure. And I just everybody who I speak to, and I'm talking whether it's guys who train with you, Dan, or yourself, Luke, or even the Welsh guys down here and Richard Shaw and people. Every single person says the same thing about Jordan Vucinic, which is he is just so good overall, but he's still so young as well. Like if he does everything right and doesn't make silly mistakes away from the cage, he's got it all. The future's basically his to take.
Yeah, definitely. I always knew it was going to be me and him when he joined our team. I knew we're going to be at the top of the list. You can just see it in him. He's just destined to get that, and he's willing to do whatever it takes as well to get that.
Yeah,
and he's one of the few that actually listen to me as well.
That's the main thing.
Mostly.
Believe it or not, I do. I still use all his tricks.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to Paul Hughes, he's 6-0 as a pro. He isn't a mug. He's got something about him. He is highly rated in Ireland. He's coming off a win against Aiden Stephen.
Yeah, I've trained with him. He is legit. So yeah,
It's good, tough. I think it is a tough fight for Jordan for sure. Danny, as his coach, are you? I don't want to say you're concerned because obviously it's your job to be concerned, but do you think Jordan will win?
Yeah, I just think Jordan's too complete. And the thing is, I'm going to be honest, and I'm always honest with him as well. We haven't even seen him perform how we know he can perform in the gym. And I put that down to his young age. So there's still some maturity and still we need to increment his pressure performance. But that's scary to think, you haven't even seen him at his best yet, nowhere near. I know that he can do so much more than we have seen him do, but he just needs to mature a little bit with his mind and his game planning. But yeah, I've seen him destroy people much bigger than him on the striking. I've seen him out wrestle people bigger than him that were skillful guys. I've seen him submit guys and just outperform them on the ground in the grappling. And then when we get other people come from all over to come and train with us, full MMA, he puts a clinic on them. So I know what he's capable of. And we've seen him at half that and still pull off wins against great guys. And to think that Jordan's going to be naturally a lot bigger than this guy. Paul Hughes is not a particularly big guy, and Jordan is genetically really strong for his size. He actually ain't big in frame. He's actually slim in the bone structure, but he has really lean muscle. Yeah, he is. But
he's deceptively fit. But
yeah, absolutely. No doubt he's gonna be fit. But I just think skill on skill.
No,
the fact that Jordan's going to have thick. Sorry.
White, yeah. When you see him from the side view, he's very wide.
Yeah, no doubt. But it's going to be interesting. But I just think Jordan's got the longer reach. He's the taller man. And so from the get-go, it's all for Paul Hughes to try and search a way in to try and make things happen. And I just think on the counter, Jordan's just going to be too good.
Yeah, one of the things which has struck me about Jordan, like whenever I've spoken to him or I've interviewed him or just chatted with him, is he's very, very driven. Like, for such a young guy, you don't speak to many guys in their kind of early 20s or younger who are like that driven and that focused, and they know where they want to get and they know how they want to get there. And I think that, that's a big part of it as well. So I'll be looking forward to that. That and Luke's fight are the two fights which straight away caught my eye as because that's I think that's a massive fight for Jordan. Someone so young but so highly rated to face someone like Paul Hughes it's a big shout.
Yeah. There's another guy from my gym fighting as well. He's got a seriously hard fight, and that's going to be a good one.
Tell us about it,
guys. He had a fight of the night with Joe McColgan.
Okay.
Which led him. They actually got a draw, and then that led him. Joe got another win and then got the belt shot. But this French guy, I don't think he's fought since that draw fight. And yeah, he's very good. And then my guy Stevie McIntosh at my new gym, High Level, he's sort of just reached his prime at 31, and then it's been uncomfortable. He's had a few unfortunate things. He was matched on this MTK show in China. Booked all the visa, took all the time off work, and then a couple of days before they changed his opponent without telling him, and it was like a 30-0 Russian guy, and it was a right scramble. They'd booked all the flights, paid for all the safe MMA, and then that went to Japan, and then a few other fights he went to Japan, tried to get on the last Trilogy, couldn't. He's just been having a right nightmare, but he's finally got his shot against another French guy. So yeah, that's going to be a brilliant fight because both of them are really explosive and really high level.
Yeah, that sounds like it'll be a good one. Mehdi Ben Lakdar he's fighting, isn't he, Steve Maguire?
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. Another one I've been told by a few people to look out for is Jack Maguire versus Dan Neal. Or Neil, I apologise if I pronounced that wrong, which is also, I think, on the Thursday. But, like, Jack Maguire is someone who I was told, have a look, he's a very, very good fighter, apparently. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this Cage Warriors card. Obviously, like, from a personal point of view, I'm a bit disappointed that Oban obviously isn't going to be fighting anytime in the near future, but I was looking forward to that.
Have you got an injury?
So in when they were doing some tests, I think to get ready for this Trilogy card, they found that he had some sort of heart issue. So he's got to go and have like a load of scans, and I think he's got to have not an operation, but like investigative type things. He did put it on all his social media stuff, but so he's out, basically out indefinitely at the moment, just till they work out the what it is and stuff. But I'd imagine, unless it's something which ends his career, basically, is he'll be back and he'll be up for it. But let's move along. One fight which was announced this week, Daniel, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier is official.
Good.
Finally.
Finally. Yeah. That's good news. Yeah, looking forward to that one.
But do you know what I'm looking forward to even more than that? And that is the December 19th UFC card, taking a bit of shape. Obviously, the main event being Leon Edwards and Chimaev. That's a fight and a half. I'd like to get your opinion on that, Luke. Who do you see picking up the victory in that one?
So hard to say because he's not had any fights in between, but judging by he's with the Swedish team, I think it's All Stars, and the word around their gym is that he just mauls everyone, like big guys. He's got what's his name, Gustafsson. I think he's been training with him for many years, grappling, wrestling, and apparently he's been getting the better of him. So he just sounds like Khabib. Beats all the big guys in training. So you can't really rule him out, but at the same time, he's fighting one of the best in the world, and it's a huge step up. So yeah, it's going to be a good one.
It is a big step up for Chimaev, I think, isn't it, Dan? Like, I know he fought John Phillips, he fought Rhys McKee, but these are very, like, Rhys McKee, it was his first fight. John Phillips, he's at least on the latter side of his career.
Yeah. Leon would have done the same to them too.
Yes, yeah, I believe so. Leon Edwards has proven over time that he's capable of beating anyone on his day. It's just the lack of activity maybe in recent times, which has maybe changed I think people have almost forgotten how good he is. Dan, do you think?
Oh yeah, I have been a little disappointed that the lack of coverage that Leon has been going, because this guy is an absolute real deal. He's done fantastic in UFC. Really, really has done well, and I'm surprised that he's not been spoken about a little bit more than he has done. But
unmarketable.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but look, this guy, even if Chimaev pulls it off and wins, it's not going to become. He's not going to get it without some adversity somewhere down the line with this guy. Leon Edwards is not going to shy away. He's not going to be in there scared. He's going to go in there. He's going to take it to Chimaev. So yeah, we're going to finally see him tested. I'm sure of that. I'm banking. My hopes are for Leon to win, obviously.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised either or way. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it, really, to be honest. Just going to enjoy it.
It's shaping up to be a mad card, actually, but it's not very often you see a ranked number 3 and fighting a ranked number 15 in the UFC. You normally have to work your way up, don't you, from 15 and kind of go through the rankings. Yeah. But no one wanted to fight. No one wanted to fight him.
He couldn't even be ranked at the minute. But
no.
There you go.
But Chimaev, no one wants to fight him, do they? And I think that's part of the issue. Part of the reason why you've ended up with the 15th versus 3rd, because no one would take the fight. But then, of course, as ever, as soon as UFC or Chimaev say, "Oh, well, no one will take my fight," all the fighters are out on social media saying, "Well, I would have taken the fight, but it's too late now."
The thing is, yeah, that's the problem with Leon. He was asking for the Masvidal fight. He asked for all the big names, and no one's interested. No, he hasn't got anyone interested.
It's a strange one, though, isn't it? Because, like we've just said, like Leon Edwards, he's ranked 3. Normally, the UK fighters will be marketed pretty well in the UFC if they are successful. He's ranked 3 in that division, so he's clearly been doing something right. But for some reason, something's not clicking. Whether it's, you could say, is the UFC promoting him? I don't know what it is, but something's not quite clicking because people, I don't know. They like, I've seen some takes, I'll call them, from some people within media or MMA circles on social media, and they're giving Leon Edwards no chance, and it's like bordering on like disrespectful. And I look, Chimaev could go in and he could steamroller him and beat him. Chimaev could probably do that to most people, but equally, I think saying that Leon Edwards has got no chance and is going to have exactly the same experience as some of these other guys, I think it's a bit disrespectful for me.
Yeah. No, I've seen clips of Leon on the pads, and he's one of the most frightening guys I've ever seen for a body kick.
He's got power.
Oh, it was brutal. I wouldn't want to take one of those kicks.
Some of the other fights rumoured or confirmed in some cases for this card: Stephen Thompson versus Jeff Neal. I think that could be a really exciting fight, Danny. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Stephen Thompson's usually good.
Yeah. There's some interesting matchups brewing along. It's looking like it's going to be another exciting card, and what a treat just before Christmas as well.
Oh yeah. Another one which I like the look of is Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy is a good one.
Oh yeah.
Misha Serkinov versus Ryan Spann. I'd really like that. Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera. Interesting one. But here's one for you then. We saw him last week and he was impressive again. Chaos Williams versus Michel Pereira.
My God.
That's a fight.
That's going to be an acrobatic event, that is.
Yes.
That's going to be quite something. That's going to look like a fight in the Matrix.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. It's weird though, right? Because that card on the 19th is the week after UFC 256, and like I just named a few of the rumoured fights or the confirmed fights for that card, and in some ways that card almost looks deeper in terms of names than the week before, which is kind of interesting. But there's still some matches to be announced. I think obviously the main event for UFC 256 is Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling, which that in itself will be
there's my phone gone.
that'll be interesting.
I've got a mate set up at the minute. My dad's up.
Next week we've got Curtis Blades versus Derek Lewis as well, which I'm quite looking forward to. But we'll touch on them a bit later. Just trying to double check now if there's any other news I wanted to bring to your attention. Anderson Silva, released by the UFC, officially the end of an era, has said he doesn't want to retire. I'm sure Bellator will pick him up, Dan.
Yeah, Bellator probably will, but that worries me a little bit. He really doesn't look himself in any way with that last performance, to be honest. And he was only allowed to because I think there was a lot of respect there, and he was allowed to express himself a little bit. Why does he want to carry on? Why?
Well, I've talked over the last couple of weeks, Dan, haven't I, about Bellator and their need to change direction when it comes to promoting fighters and signing fighters, and go for more young and upcoming fighters rather than these guys who are, should have retired 2 years ago. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Anderson Silva in particular, but go on.
Well, if you look at it from the point of view of like me, who's been grafting for 15 years, and I'm picking up like peanuts for fights, like less than 2,000. He can go in there and get 200,000 for losing a fight. It's like
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, why are you going to say no when you remember the times when you got no money?
No, that's it.
That's the thing. He's in Brazil. I think he's in America now, but he still remembers what it's like to have no money, I guess. So if you primed by money, you're not going to stop.
Yeah, he must be well minted by now, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not short of a few quid. But what I would like to see actually from Anderson Silva is I'd love to see him start like really pushing on with training some fighters, because he could offer so much to these guys. But as I've said, while I've been critical of Bellator over the last couple of weeks on the show, I have said that signing the likes of Brett Johns and Khabib's brother and these sorts of guys is a step in the right direction. I think they announced, I'm sure they said Usman Nurmagomedov. I said it. Well done me. I'm sure that they announced his first fight for Bellator. I'm just going to double check that. But ultimately, I just want to see Bellator concentrate on these young and up and coming fighters and really give them a big platform to show what they can do, instead of didn't we say, Dan, that Rampage Jackson is in their like heavyweight rankings?
Yeah.
Right, with the greatest of respect to Rampage Jackson, he hasn't been a relevant MMA fighter in probably at least 10 years.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, he would rip my arms off. But what I'm saying is, like, Bellator as a company should be doing better for me in terms of where they're focusing their promotion. But hey, who am I? They're just, they're the ones making the cash. And sorry, it wasn't Khabib's brother, it was Khabib's cousin they signed. Okay. So we're going to move on to the UFC. But just really, really quickly, in 10 words or less, Luke, how do you see Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier going?
I'm not sure, but I know if McGregor don't finish him in round 1 or 2, and of course it's going to be a main event. We've never seen Poirier quit from any sort of cardio or anything like that. So, round 1 or 2, it's McGregor's by finish. But if Poirier gets past 1 or 2, it's going to be a whitewash for him, I think.
It's going to be a fascinating fight because it could go so differently depending on how, when it finishes. We could be talking, Dan, about Conor McGregor doing it again in like a minute or two, or we could be talking about a 5-round beating. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I sort of partially agree with what Luke's trying to say about it, but I don't know whether Poirier can just push forward enough to create that cardio deficit in Conor. I think Conor's just got too much of a precision shot on him, and just too dangerous, too powerful with those singular shots that I'm just not so sure that he's going to be able to push him. Whereas someone like Nate pushed Conor to tiredness.
He was able to walk him down. He was naturally bigger, had that long reach and height.
I'm not so sure Poirier's going to be able to do that. I think, and Poirier's going to have it in his head. He's felt his power before. And you can't tell me that if you've been knocked out before, that ain't going to be somewhere in your mind facing the same opponent. So I think he won't be on the gas pedal. I think Poirier, you might see him use leg kicks more. Excuse me.
One thing which interests me is that everyone's talked about how Dustin Poirier is not the same fighter that he was when he fought McGregor initially. Of course he's not. But
no,
I think people are also forgetting. I think people are also forgetting, though, is that Conor McGregor's not the same fighter that he was either. And as much as people give Conor McGregor stick, for he lost to Khabib, he lost to Diaz, I think as a fighter solely, Conor McGregor has improved massively over the years. The big concern would obviously be he hasn't been that active in full-blown fights. But John Kavanagh tweeted last week, I think it was, that he was on his way to see Conor, and they were starting their fight camp. So
I'll keep watching the Khabib fight back, and it was just it was just appalling when he started kneeing him in
Yeah.
the face to try and get the fight standard up again. He was going to do anything at that point to get that fight stood up. He was posed in the cage, kneed him in the face.
Yeah, it was so frustrating though, because I
Yeah.
in the build up to that fight, I watched all of Conor McGregor's like early fights. I watched a couple of the Cage Warriors, and I watched all his fights in the UFC just to get in the mood for it. And I watched Khabib, and Khabib was doing the same thing every fight. He was mauling people. Conor was finishing people on the way up, and then everything which made Conor McGregor the special fighter that he was, he didn't do against Khabib. So you never got to see, like, everyone talked about Khabib's wrestling will be too much for him. How will Conor defend it? And we saw that he was able to defend it to a point, but ultimately he didn't have the strength or the skills to do it, which everyone thought. But we never got to see if Conor's counter striking and precision striking would trouble Khabib, because he never really did it. And I feel like that's the only, I think I've said to you, Dan, before, that's the only reason I would ever like to see that rematch, is if I could be guaranteed.
He ain't getting knocked out.
Yeah.
He took Gaethje's hardest shot, which is arguably harder than McGregor's.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Pinged right off his head. He didn't even move.
Yeah, but
Stuff him, didn't I?
But what you got to do is you got to put that into perspective. Habib's just done what he always does, and when he beat Gaethje a whole lot more convincingly than he beat Conor McGregor. I think Conor McGregor put up a better fight than Gaethje did, to put things into perspective for you.
He did, but then if you look at the Poirier one, he also put up a very good accounting of himself. So it's so even that it's unreal.
Yeah,
be fascinating fight. I will. Dustin Poirier versus
Time
McGregor.
will tell. Time will tell.
Indeed. Right. Let's get on. Let's get on to these fights from last night. There was one fight from the pre-show I just wanted to touch on, because I think it might have been my favourite fight of the night, and that was he says, and he can't remember the name of the fighters. I will tell you just now.
Koski and
Koisi versus Luis Koisi versus Sasha Palentikov. What a fight, Dan! What a fight! It was beautiful. Three rounds.
Yeah, it went. It was looking like Koski was going to do it early on. He got taken down, but reversed it and then rocked that Palentikov. Proper rocked him and was all over him. But Palentikov, he come back, he got up, and he just seemed to have bags and bags of cardio. And it was looking like Koski was done, but the rounds went on. And then it started looking like Louis Koski was going to start pulling it off again. He got second wind, started going at it again. But Palentikov's cardio and resilience, I mean, the only thing that he bowed down on was a couple of groin strikes. I don't think they was that too clean. I think they was perhaps looking for a little bit of a breather. But my goodness, they're both debuting. I think they was both debuting for UFC, wasn't they? What a performance they both gave. They really did. If one thing's for sure, they both got absolute heart and desire to win. We definitely saw that. But we did see some elements of good skill as well. It wasn't just that they were trading toe for toe. We saw some really nice spinning back fists. We saw some nice takedown combinations, some nice clinch work with knees. Kind of had a bit of everything. We saw some ground in terms of ground and pound. Not many of them were trying to just submit each other. But it was one hell of a fight. But Sasha pulled it off. Really down to that cardio thing. I think that's what gave him the edge, really. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of the finish that Modesta's got in Cage Warriors, where the wrestler just slumped down, fouled with a double leg, and then was just getting hit in that turtle position. It got to a position where Sasha was no longer even sprawling. He was sort of like just squatting over him, punching left, right, until the ref stepped in. But great performance for both of them. I mean, that's the kind of thing you need to do when you're both fighting for your first time and not playing overly safe. You need to make a good performance. And even though Louis Koski got the loss on that one, people will be raising their eyebrows at his performance nevertheless, and be sitting up and taking note of this guy.
Yeah, even though he lost, people will look out for his name the next time he fights, because he put up such a it was a great fight, back and forth, and there was points where Koski looked like he might sneak it. That low blow just before, it was an accidental low blow from Koski on Sasha Palentikov, and what it did is it gave them both, or gave Sasha a bit of a breather, and then he came back from that breather and just finished the fight in explosive style. Did you watch this one, Luke?
I only watched the main card.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Top 5.
That was just one which I watched this morning, and I was like, "Oof, I got to talk about that." It was real good.
Did anyone see the? Did you see that Antonio Shevchenko? Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in it. Yeah, not Valentina. Antonio.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't see
that. She's what an improvement in her ground game. Now we all know she's a striker, but also that Irina Lipski, her striking looked devastating as well. That was
that was a hard fight for Shevchenko, for Antonio Shevchenko, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. But what an improvement in her ground skills. Really, really tight, and her takedowns were really good. Yeah, really, really good. Great performance. Really was.
Okay, so the main card started with Scotsman, Mr. Paul Craig. Was that the first fight of the main card?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, wasn't it? I thought it was. Okay. So one thing I was going to ask: Did either of you watch the Brandon Moreno? That was on the main card, wasn't it? I'm getting all confused now.
I think it was one of the last prelims.
Sorry. So Brandon Moreno faced Brandon Royval on the final, the main event of the prelims, if you like, which was interesting. Ranked number 1 versus ranked number 6 on the prelims. Brandon Moreno looked superb, really, really impressive. And Dan, what I would like you to do, your homework for this week, is to go and watch that fight. And tell me about what you think Brandon Moreno next week, because I thought that was superb. But anyway, Shogun Rua versus Paul Craig in the rematch. I watched their first fight earlier as well, which was a real good fight. Luke, what did you make of this fight? Paul Craig picked up the victory via TKO 3 minutes and a half into the second round. What did you make of this one, mate?
Yeah, he always just finds a way to win. even when he's outskilled on the feet, outskilled on the ground, he'll still manage to pull off a triangle. He just wins all the time. But then there was a point in that fight where he got pinged, and he got a solid chin. But I was thinking if it was a younger Rua, that might have been the end of the fight, because he lost his bearings for a split second. But
he had a wobble, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like a 1-2, but the second one really pinged him as his head went back on the cage. But I knew it was going to be a one-sided affair. He's just too fit. If you look at their physiques, it's going to boil down to the younger man being more athletic and out-grappling like he did. And then of course the oil check.
I think Paul Craig is vastly underrated. I do. You mentioned his ability there to just pull out a victory when it seems like everything's going against him and everything's maybe not going to plan. He's got this knack of being able to win. And I think to put it in football terms, we talk about this a lot on the football shows, like teams who can play badly and still pick up victories. They play badly for 90 minutes, but they still win 1-0, or they score a last-minute winner. They find a way to win or to get a draw when they've got no business doing it. And I almost feel like Paul Craig's got that quality where things might not be going to plan, might not be going as well as they could, but he just wins. And I just think he's underrated. I just think he's an underrated fighter.
He's getting a lot of easy money at the minute too, though. He's been getting fights.
Big fights.
He's easily winning. And I think he's on a 6 or 7 fight win streak. I really want to see him with that step up in competition. And,
we'll have a little chat about that, I think, now in a minute. Once we'll get Danny's point of view, and we'll do a bit of fantasy booking and see who we'll put him up against next. But Danny, what did you think of Paul Craig's performance and the fight overall? And also, I would like to put this question to you: if Paul Craig was American, would he get more credit?
Yeah, I do think if he was American, he'd be getting more credit and more attention around him. yeah, you're right. It does also, it does seem to pull these wins out the bag, but that's a commendament to your sharpness of his skills on the ground with his submissions. He's quite a tall guy as well, so that can make an awkward thing either on the feet or in the grappling means. Now, I'm absolutely agreeing with Luke. I think a younger Shogun would have capitalised on the fact that he rocked Craig, and I think he would have been on him and maybe started thumping some of that technical skill out of him and made his grappling less tight. Rue did have his chances. Paul Craig made a mistake on his back and ended up underneath in that first round. And again, that's a situation where Rua in the past has just postured up and done devastating ground and pound there because he had the cardio to do so. But he's just not the athlete that he once was. There's definitely still fight in him, but he just doesn't have the cardio against these younger men. And that was ultimately his undoing with combination of Paul Craig's, grappling prowess. And it proved too much for Shogun Rua. But Shogun now is a gatekeeper at best. Really is no longer at his best. We all know that. We're not under any illusions. I actually thought Shogun, if he come as the competitor that we know he's been in the past, could have put it on Paul Craig enough to get the win. But we can't take nothing away from Paul. He done great in the striking. He was shooting in at the right times. Okay, a couple of errors, but when he got back on top in that second round, was it second round?
Yeah.
And that second round, he was making it more of a done deal. And look at the way he took the back and sprawled him out. There was no way that Rua was getting up from that. And Rua, surprisingly, tapped out rather than gets put out asleep or get knocked out. I'm quite surprised that he's willing to tap out. I think he was absolutely gassed and had nothing more to give.
Exhausted, wasn't he? Interesting, though. So Dana White said after the fight that he hopes that that's Shogun's last fight. He thinks he should retire. But actually, Shogun Rua, before this fight, was on like a 3-fight win streak. I think he's only lost one of the fights, I think it was, off the top of my head. I'm going to find the stat now. But is it a bit early to be kind of saying that sort of thing? Do you think he showed enough in this fight that he should, he's got plenty to offer? Or is it maybe... so he was on a 3-fight unbeaten streak before tonight, and he'd only lost one of his last 7 fights. And Dana White said, basically, I want him to retire. But he did expand on it a little bit and said that Shogun didn't look the same fighter tonight. He wasn't the Shogun that we've grown to, to watch and see over the years. Danny, do you feel like Shogun still got something to offer the UFC and the division? Or maybe...
No, like I say, there's still fight in him, but is it the right thing to continue a career that clearly is only going to go in one direction? I just think there's no need to risk his health to carry on and do so. No need to put a shadow over the legacy that he's created for himself, because this guy's an absolute legend. He's done things back in the Pride days. He really has been about a bit, and he's done great things for the sport. I just don't want to see these fighters going on too long, and he ain't going to get any better now. And yes, he could still beat some of the guys in the top 15 on his given day, but those days where he's going to be able to beat those guys are literally diminishing month by month. He's at that age now. There's a lot of mileage on that guy's clock, along with the fact that his age is no longer of him. His age is such where he's no longer in his physical prime. Yeah, he should hang up his gloves. He should move aside for these younger men.
Yeah, I think that's fair, isn't it? I think it's a fair assessment. You mentioned Pride there. Whenever someone asks me if they're new to MMA and they'll say, what would you recommend to watch, for exciting fights? And I always say, if you've got UFC Fight Pass, go and have a look at some of the Pride fights, because they were just some good ones on there, and
yeah,
I enjoy it. So let's have a look. So Paul Craig has lost 1 in his last 7 fights. He's beaten Moreo, he's beaten Shogun twice, or he drew with Shogun and then beat him, and he also beat Antigolov via a choke. I'm going to give you some names from the division in and around him, and you could tell me who you guys think you'd like to see him fight next. So he's ranked 15 before this fight. I'd imagine he'll go up at least 1 to above Shogun. So then you've got, directly above him, you've got Jimmy Crute, Ryan Spann, and Kaloff, Misha Serkinov, Johnny Walker, Nikita Krylov, Ozdemir, and then you're into your Anthony Smiths, your Rakic and Dominic Reyes. Who would you like to see him go? Say again, sorry, mate.
It's Murderer's Row on that one.
It is. It's a brutal division, isn't it? Who would you like to see Paul Craig go up against next, Luke?
I'd like to see him fight Crute. Yeah, that'd be a good fight. But I don't know, man. I don't think he'd pull off a sneaky submission on him. I think it'd be a bad show. So,
I think I'd like to see Crute. Maybe Misha Serkinov. I think that could be quite an interesting fight. Anyone in there to sort of strike your fancy for him next, Dan?
Yeah, I was going to say Crute as well, to be honest, because Crute, as we've seen, has got the striking capability. So Paul Craig would definitely have to get this to the ground, but Crute can wrestle somewhat, and his ground skills are really, really good. I do think, I do think it will go to the ground. I think you'll see some really sexy exchanges. So out of the interest of their groundwork battle, I would want to see it for that. But it's not a fight I think Paul Craig would win. My money would be on Crute.
What about Johnny Walker? Would you do that one, mate? Because I think that would
as a career move. As a career move, that would be better. That would be a better fight.
Yeah, rather. Well, he's got way more chance of winning against Walker than he has Crute.
Yeah, and I think from Paul Craig's point of view, he's ranked 14, 15. Johnny Walker's 9th. So it's like a realistic jump in terms of who he's fighting, but also from a matchmaking point of view, I think if he beats Johnny Walker, that's it's a big win for him. Jimmy Crute provides a different set of challenges, which maybe are not where you want to go if you want to plug some wins together. Okay, next up we have Caitlin Chikagian beat Cynthia Calvillo via unanimous decision. Caitlin Chikagian wins by unanimous decision. Shock, horror. She seems to constantly win by decision. Luke, we'll go to you first with this one. What did you make of this one, mate?
Yeah, she's good. You can tell she's got that Muay Thai background. Them women are tough, and I think she's always going to stay around like where she's ranked now. I think 4th or 3rd, but I can't see her picking off number 1 and 2 anytime soon. That's for sure.
No, I don't. I think she's just having a look then to see if she's had a title fight. Yeah, she had the one, didn't she? She fought. She's fought Valentina and lost in pretty quick.
Yeah, she
time,
didn't do
like
very well at all.
Minute and 3 seconds. She's also in other in other promotions. She's fought for the bantamweight and flyweight titles, but I just think she's a good fighter. She's like a mid-card good fighter in that division, but ultimately, I just don't see her troubling someone like Valentina Shevchenko or those real top names. But as a fight, I thought it was quite enjoyable. Dan, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, Chikagian was really impressive, to be honest, but we can put it down to the fact that there was so much physical difference. Height, reach, I think, was really Calvillo's nemesis with the whole situation. She just could not push close. It was a real task for her. I would have liked to have seen her attempt more takedown attempts to try and steer the fight into a different direction, especially in that second round. If she'd come back to the corner in that first round, you could foresee that she's going to have an issue all night long with the range. I would have been saying, look, do all sorts of tricks with your striking. She's still got good striking herself, to try to disguise her entry, get the clinch, and try and take something out of Chikagian's striking. If they clinched up a little bit more, even if it wasn't succeeding for a takedown, it would have maybe taken some of that pace out of her jab, which was establishing that range and keeping that Calvillo out of range on the outskirts where she was losing. So, yeah, that's what I wished I would have seen, is a little bit adaptation of her strategies to try to bring her back in the fight, but she didn't. She was just steadily losing all the time.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought Chikagian was pretty good all the way round.
Yeah, she was.
Calvillo never quite looked like, and she never looked dangerous as such. Chikagian's ranked 2, and my problem is, yes, she looked impressive, but I don't think she beats Jessica Andrade, who's ranked number 1, and I don't think she troubles Shevchenko, who's the champ. So I suppose Jennifer Maia, who's ranked 3rd, she could go with her next, obviously, because Jennifer might.
Yeah, that's
what I was going to say. I don't think she's going to win that either. And then you've got like this weird thing whereby she's ranked number 2, stroke 3 if she was to lose to Jennifer. And you can't, or you don't want to put her against the champ or the ranked number 1 because they're going to beat her. And then, like, where does she go from that? I feel like at some point, if she keeps beating the girls underneath her, the UFC have got to pull the trigger and just give her another title shot, even though it seems like nobody thinks that she would win that title fight. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? But then maybe I'm doing her a disservice, and maybe she got a good record, and I thought she was impressed.
It was a body shot, wasn't it? It was a body shot. Just even before the body shot, it looked a bit like a deer in headlights. She looked like she didn't belong there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she crumpled, didn't she? Quickly.
Yeah.
Next up was Mike Perry versus Tim Means. Danny, did this go how you thought it was going to go?
Eventually it did, but in the beginning, first round, it wasn't going the way I thought it was going. Perry really surprised me. First of all, to take it down as early as he did, and then actually worked technically quite well off his back. The only thing was he was on Means' back, but where he was on underneath. And that could be draining because your heart's trying to pump blood up to those arms and those legs. And he's quite a stocky character. He's not exactly tall at the weight, so he's thick in the arm and thick in the legs. That can take it out on you because although he was positioning himself quite well, you can tell that he was doing it not like an experienced grappler. He was doing it and holding it with little power and just a fair bit of know-how. But he certainly wasn't doing it in the right way in terms of his energy levels there. He was really trying to squeeze on that choke. And Means kept pushing that elbow up high. It's not the best defence in the world, I don't think. But Means pulled it off. I think if he tried to do that against a more gifted grappler, trying to push that elbow up on the actual choking arm, that's a difficult way to escape. But it was enough to escape it from Mike Perry. Then after that, my God, Means' boxing was beautiful in terms of MMA boxing. He was firing just from the shoulder, not putting too much hip into it, really making proper use of his reach and range. And the fact that he had considerable height advantage there, he just looked really fantastic. And then Mike Perry should have done what he started doing in the latter part of that round 3, should have been doing that from the get-go in round 2 to keep himself really, truly relevant because he was clearly getting outboxed. But he was using those power hands and was at times rocking Means. But he had to keep pushing close. And to me, he stood on the outskirts, receiving all these shots just a little too frequent and just put him too far behind. So he constantly had to look for the knockout or submission because he did try to get it to the ground numerous times, obviously gained some confidence there, but was unable to do so a second time in any meaningful way. But Means, he looked really, really good. But Mike Perry, he missed weight by quite a bit, didn't he, again? This is becoming... this wasn't even close. I mean, what do you do with a guy like that?
But the thing is, he's got no coach, have he? He's got no team. He's just him and his wife, isn't it?
So good.
Yeah,
now he's living life like a rapper.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like, but the problem is that's fine as long as you're turning up to when you've got to turn up. You're doing all your tests and your drug tests and you're turning up for media and you're turning up where you've got to sign your contract and everything which you have to do, which a team would help you do, as long as you're still doing those things, and I include making weight on that because you'd have a team helping you with that. If you're not doing that, or if you don't do those things, or you're missing those things, then it becomes a problem for me anyway. I just think, and he missed it by
4.5 pounds, was it, something like that?
I think, 4.5 pounds.
That's
That's
inexcusable.
A lot,
Inexcusable.
Especially when your opponent's 6'2" and you're 5'8" or 5'9".
5'9", yeah.
Well, Dan, we'd be hypocrites if we didn't give him a bit of crap for it, because like we've slated all sorts of people from all around the world for, if you're gonna do it, like there's one thing missing weight by like a pound or half a pound, and you know, you've tried.
Yeah.
There's another thing, turning up 4.5 pounds overweight. You haven't got a team around you to advise you, and you come across like he does. He very much comes across with the attitude of he doesn't give a shit. I think that makes it worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, he did a dab or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he did something stupid, like just.
He done his dab and 20%.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, I think a lot of his weight cutting issue is partly because he hasn't got a proper team and a proper coach advising him, and he hasn't got no one to answer to. But also, you know, how hard is he actually training? Now, he looked pretty gas at the end of that first round, which he predominantly was winning. But when he went back to his corner and come out for that second round, he didn't look exactly fresh. And I just think that he puts up such a great fight, not because he's technically gifted, not because he's clearly training really hard. I just think he's a real proper hard man that's got some know-how, and he's got, you know, natural power in his hands. So it's amazing that he's come as far as he has with the conditions that he's preparing in. But this whole weight cutting, like, I think this is down to the fact that he's just not fit enough. I think had he been in proper condition to fight at the level that he's at, that weight cutting won't be as issue as much as it's showing up on repeated occasions.
So he was tweeting in the build up to the weighing in, and he was kind of like saying, "Oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it." And then he started tweeting this weird stuff, and then he said, "I was 189. I got myself down to 177, and now my body just won't sweat." And then he starts rambling about retirement and all this weird stuff. And the problem is, where he hasn't got a team around him, he's doing that weight cut. And as you guys know, when you're cutting that much weight, you're a bit all over the place, aren't you? A bit lightheaded, but not feeling great. Man. The last thing you want to be doing is doing interviews or tweeting out what's going through your head during that last bit of the weight cut. And he's got no one to stop him, no one to advise him. I don't know. And then he's had all this stuff where his ex-wife has accused him of domestic abuse, and everything is kind of like on top for him outside the cage. I just feel like he's not prepared. He hasn't got the best preparation out the cage. Like, I feel like there's something there with him as a fighter. Like, he's clearly a very hard, tough guy. He's got power in his fists. There's something there, but ultimately, what's he doing if he's not got a team and he's not got someone helping him to prepare for these fights and to do the things he needs to do and to make sure he's on point to cut weight healthily? Like, what's he like? Is his heart in it, really?
Yeah, he's got to change things up. He's got to make changes, and it's not changes within the fight itself. It's in all the prep. You're absolutely right, but time will tell. You know.
Well, mate, like Conor McGregor will have a dietitian when he with John Kavanagh. It's not just him and John Kavanagh. Like, they've started the preparation for this fight, like Luke is doing for his fight with Jake Hadley, whereby you're losing the weight gradually, so you haven't got to unhealthily.
He would have done that before. He would have had the full team in the camp, and he's gone through all the process of being a professional fighter like everyone else. Now he's just acting like a dick, and it's not setting a good example for everyone else, because you don't get there by doing that. He's only just sort of doing it now. He's an established name.
Yeah, and it's affected him. Ultimately, it's affecting his career now, I think, because no one's got any sympathy for him because of the way he's acting. And he's lost the fight, which, you know, could he have won that fight if he had prepared properly?
For the sport now.
That's exactly how I feel, mate. I feel like
obviously the fans are thinking, this guy can do it, I can do it. And it gets that sort of pub head where they think they can take on UFC
Yeah.
fighters, and it's just annoying for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like he's embarrassing almost. I don't even find it funny anymore. I find there was a point where I used to kind of laugh at some of his antics, but now I look at that and I just look at it and it's like 4.5 pounds missed weight again, and it's just like, yeah, come on, either get on board and do it properly, or just go and do something else. Because if your heart's not in it, I don't think boxing or MMA or fighting of any kind, if your heart's not in it, that's when people get hurt. So, that's my piece anyway. Danny, UFC Women's Flyweight Championship. Valentina Shevchenko is a bloody machine. She defeated Jennifer Maia, and it was a pretty good fight again by the ladies.
Yeah, Jennifer Maia, she done really well. She's a strong girl. Yeah. She can strike in her own right quite well, and as we know, she's a black belt on the ground. She's a good grappler. She made Shevchenko have to go back to a corner and come up with some answers to some problems she was having. But
they did though, didn't they? They adapted and they came up with those answers.
Yeah. I was just really surprised at Shevchenko's choice to try to get it to the ground so early in the fight. I thought she was going to choose to strike. But
those head kicks, try and set up one of those.
Yeah. But she didn't. She chose to take it to the ground, and like I say, in one of those rounds, it went against her. And she spent predominantly the round on her back. She come out though, and she started re-establishing herself. And then as the fight progressed, striking started looking better and better and better. And I think she broke the nose of Jennifer Maia at one point. I think it got overlooked in the commentary, but she was throwing that cross left because she was in southpaw, and it was real piercing down the centre line, and her work rate just increased throughout the rounds. It was really, really impressive. But Jennifer Maia, I thought she was going to get ran through like Shevchenko's been doing to all of her opponents of late, but she actually put up a really good account of herself, and clearly on the improving list. She's definitely getting better, and she'll be better from this experience too. Surely, even though she's lost, it must have given her confidence that, hey, you know what, I know what it's like to win a round off Shevchenko. I know there's ways to do it. There's hope there. So yeah, she'll go back to the drawing board. She'll have another 2-3 fights, and I'm sure she'll be looking
get a rematch.
At maybe getting a rematch, and she deserves it on that performance with a couple of other fights. If she shows that she has taken it on board and she consolidates some of these improvements that I think this experience is going to be giving her, then Shevchenko, I think, is going to make an even tighter match next time around.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'll be really looking forward to that rematch. I'd like to see Jennifer Maia actually. I think thought about it a bit more. I think they should put her versus Caitlin Chikagian next.
That would be a good one.
I think that would be a good fight for both of them. And let's be honest, maybe I was a little bit disrespectful to Caitlin Chikagian. But if she goes and beats Jennifer Maia, then she deserves to have a go at Shevchenko then, doesn't she?
Definitely.
What did you think of the Shevchenko-Jennifer Maia fight, Luke? I thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it was a good even first couple of rounds, but then the commentary of Joe Rogan, you can tell he's never been in there, because sometimes he's turning it one-sided, like he was talking about, like Shevchenko is getting mauled, and she was just losing the first couple of rounds. It was probably a strategic plan on the cardio or whatever. But he makes it sound like she's already lost, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if he was doing it to make it sound exciting, but I think if you listen to it without the commentary, it'd be a different fight.
Yeah, sometimes him, and even DC, sometimes he can sound like, once he's got it in his mind about a particular fighter, he can sound quite biased, and seems to be looking at things through just his own goggles, and not doing it from a commentator should really be telling you what's happening, sat on the fence and not favouring anyone or not favouring a style, not bringing personalities into the equation. You should be just telling you it like they used to do back in the day, listening to football teams and boxing matches, and all they had was a radio. You comment to what's happening. But I can't help but feel I'm glad you picked up on that, Luke, because initially he's a fantastic commentator. He just drum up the interest, but sometimes the way he looks at those fights, it ain't quite how it really is. And maybe it's a little lack of the fact that he hasn't actually been in there and done it himself, although a great martial artist in his own right.
Yeah, he was saying the same thing to McGregor against Khabib. He was saying like maybe he's trying to punch himself out. It's like definitely not trying to do that.
No.
He's taking some
No.
punch.
Just getting booted. I think one thing I like obviously as someone myself who's never been in a cage and stuff like that, one thing I do enjoy from a positive point of view with Joe Rogan is I like the way he describes and goes through all the grappling side of things. I think that adds a lot for someone, particularly even for people.
Experience with that though, that's the difference. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he understands that. But then when you start
Some of the other stuff, he gets a bit overexcited.
Dan Strauss he's trying to judge a jiu-jitsu match when there's strikes happening. It don't work.
And the thing I think I enjoy DC's commentary on the whole, but what I noticed last night is, so say if he's commentating on a fight which he's got like a training partner or a friend who's in the fight, he is very one-sided towards his training partner or his friend, whereas when I have like a Dan Hardy or a Bisping or who's the other one who does it, Dan? Not Reyes.
Yeah, I think Bisping done the San Joses, and they're actually teammates, but he did it in a completely.
He did it really well, didn't he?
Yeah, there was no bias or anything like that.
I'm trying to think. There's one of the bantamweights who does commentary. I've forgotten his name.
Cruz.
Dominic Cruz. I think he's very, very good, and I think where Joe Rogan and DC have been off for probably a couple of months now, and you've seen the likes of Dan Hardy, Bisping, Dominic Cruz doing the commentary. I think they've done a really good job, and what it's shown is that, yes, like I say, Joe Rogan does a fantastic job with the grappling and stuff. Maybe he does get a bit overexcited in certain situations, but also DC maybe needs to work a bit on his one-sidedness when it comes to his teammates and stuff. Like, and you've got to, because you can't have, you can't see it from one. So you've got to be able to tell the audience what's going on, rather than just being one-sided, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, but can you imagine, not having Joe Rogan do these feature fights?
He's got to do it.
The way he shouts from it.
I got to say, I do miss him when he's not there, though. Is the other thing?
I wish he would speak to Cruz and get some knowledge on that stuff. Like, ask him why he's doing this, why he's doing that. Then he'll have more understanding.
If you could,
feeling it.
Yeah, if you could pick your combination then of the current UFC commentators, you had to pick 3. Who would you pick? Assuming you'd have John Anik as the main guy, who would your two guys be to go with him?
Well, Bisping's always pissed lately, so he's always talking shit. So if he was sober, then I'd pick Bisping, but at the minute, no. So it'd have to be Cruz and Felder, maybe. And
Felder's very good as well.
Yeah.
Who would you go, Dan? Who would your combination be?
Yeah, I'd go Cruz and Dan Hardy. I think that Dan Hardy's really analytical. I like the way he just flows when he talks as well. I don't know, just
John Anik and Dan Hardy are very good together as well.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of stuck because I almost want Joe Rogan in there because it's Joe Rogan, but I'm not willing to sacrifice John Anik or Dan Hardy for my combination. And then I'm kind of happy then with Felder. I'm happy with Bisping. I'm happy with DC. I'm happy with Dominic Cruz. I'm happy with any of those guys because I think they all bring something to the table, which I enjoy. So Joe Rogan kind of got to go. And I don't think he's going to get that big fat contract next time around, I've got to be honest. But I think the UFC's been clever in that because he doesn't do the foreign shows, he only does the American shows, is what they've done is they've built up all those guys we've just talked about. So they won't, because last time when Joe Rogan signed his contract, he kind of had the UFC over a barrel because they got rid of Mike Goldberg and they didn't really have another kind of big name commentator who would attract people in, and I think now they have. So I don't know. But then saying that, because his podcast does so much traffic and numbers, it's almost like they'll always want him because he brings in those people from that. So
it's not as if he's appalling. He's just
no.
He's just sometimes not telling it how it really is from a pure MMA fighter's perspective. But he is still great. His personality is awesome. Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know. You just got to love his personality. I love his podcast. I love his enthusiasm. Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. And okay, so you might say, he had him over a barrel. I think Dana White really likes him, and I think.
I meant it metaphorically, not like he was trying to screw him over.
To me, you are going to get better quality commentating with selected others that we've been speaking about, but it ain't always just about that. Sometimes you've got to see it from a business perspective, and he's going to draw attention when he's doing the commentating on these big feature fights, and so you're always going to see him. And I say, that's absolutely fine. It's not like he's doing a disgusting job, and being a commentator ain't consequential to what's going to happen in the fights, like a referee or bad judging. This is just commentating, and commentators don't always get it right, and but it's harmless.
And also, as well, mate, just to add to that, is if you've got like the big UFC pay-per-views, like last night, for instance, you have a lot more casual fans watching before COVID. You need that commentator like Joe Rogan, who everybody knows, but also has got that knowledge, like we talked about, his grappling knowledge, to be able to kind of keep that casual fan engaged during those shows, because they're the ones ultimately who will go and buy t-shirts and come back for the next pay-per-view and that sort of stuff. Right, let's get to the main event of the evening. And what a main event, or should I say, what a performance by Davison Figueiredo, the champion, defeated Alex Perez, who was ranked number 4, via submission, guillotine choke, 1 minute 57. Oh boy. Luke, tell me about this one first, mate, because I know Danny is itching for this.
That was actually my prediction. It was either a guillotine or knockout first round, but Perez is definitely the other number 1 contender. I can't see anyone else in the division beating him.
No.
There always seems to be one at flyweight, and until they're gone, there's no one else to match it.
How impressed were you with Figueiredo, mate? And have you been over recent
pretty
times?
Impressed, but I think looking at his body shape compared to the rest of them, I think he's been on the Mexican beef. And there's no denying it, man. I think because the Rio boys, I think they're getting heavy drug tests at the minute, but I wouldn't be surprised. He's right near the Amazon. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one guy up there and he can pay him off. I know that stuff's going on. So. he might be popped soon, I reckon.
Here's a question for you then, Luke. Question, I'm going to put you on the spot. Dana White phones you tomorrow morning and he says, I want you to fight Figueiredo for the UFC Flyweight title on New Year's Eve. Would you take that fight?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll beat guys on steroids before, man. I think I could.
This is brilliant.
I don't know.
You know what clip's going at the start of the show.
I can sniff them out a mile away, and I'll sniff some roids going on there.
You sniff some things in your time.
but yeah, no, I think he'll be the. If I get a run in the UFC, I reckon he'll still be there when I mean, it's easily doable that I could get a pop at him in the near future.
Do you out of the three of them, being Brandon Moreno, Joseph Benavidez, and Figueiredo, which one of you, or which one of the other two, do you think is most likely to take the title from him?
Don't know. They're all good, but they're not vicious enough like him to do anything nasty to him. So I can't see him losing it anytime soon.
Anyone further down you fancy could perhaps have a run at him?
No. If anyone stands a chance, it's Moreno, but I don't think it's much of a chance.
No, he was impressive last night, Moreno, earlier on in the night.
He's always impressive. So was Perez. He looked unbeatable, but I still knew he'd lose to Figueiredo.
Figueiredo is an animal, and he's just like he is vicious. Yeah. You said it right there. He's vicious. Come on, Dan.
Yeah,
what do you make of this, mate?
Yeah, I mean, on the feet, it looked like he was going to get tested somewhat, but Perez got that hold of that single, didn't he? And then just tried to lift it up to the shoulders to get the takedown. There was a sneaky little temporary grab on the cage. I don't know whether you spotted that, and the ref had to pull Figueiredo's hand off the cage. But then he spotted an opportunity for that jump-in leg lock, which is really, really unusual. And it was actually a fair old punt to go for it because he fell quite deep in on it. But it's quite hard to get someone from a stood position down to the ground to try and complete those leg locks because you're not controlling the body mass. Maybe Perez was just a little bit too fresh. Maybe in the latter rounds that would have stood a chance of being bed in. But he nevertheless got it to a ground scenario. But that sneaky guillotine, I mean, what happened was Perez was getting past the guard and Figueiredo started to retrieve the guard. But before he retrieved the guard, he got hold of the head and then started putting in the hooks. And yeah, I mean, he started nailing me. It actually looked like he was beginning to tap before the ref actually stepped in. So you knew it was cut right underneath the chin. And like Luke says, he looks strong. And being that early on in a round and being so deep under the chin, being caught in a guillotine like that is going to be a hard fix to get out of. But it was nice. It was quite sexy on how it got set up. It's such a shame it ended in that way for a fan's perspective and for me as interest on how that would have gone as a technical battle and a tactical battle. But, Figueiredo just gets it done, doesn't he? He's dangerous on the feet. He can stop you, and clearly dangerous on the ground now. He's getting stoppages on the ground frequently. He's absolutely on fire. Yeah,
he looks dangerous, and I think like Luke just described it best, vicious. Yeah, he just looks bang up for it. He looks and he's got the skills to pay the bills, as it were. He's got the skills to back up what he's the way he goes about his business. I enjoy watching his fights. I could tell you that much. Dana White wants to do Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno in December, so that'll be interesting to see if that gets done. Because, like I say, I thought Moreno was very, very impressive earlier on in that fight, but I just don't know if he was so impressive that I now fancy him to beat Figueiredo. I don't think I do, which is kind of interesting because as I've said a couple of times, like I thought Moreno was very impressive, but I still don't fancy him to take the title off him. But it's fighting; you never know what can happen. Just to finish us off, we're gonna do some predictions of the UFC's card next week. So next event is Sunday, 29th of November. Main event is Curtis Blades versus Derek Lewis. Who is going to win, Danny?
Oh,
tough one to call, mate.
I'm going to go Derek Lewis. It's just a hard one to...
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go Derek Lewis.
You'd be wrong.
Maybe.
Luke, who are you going to go with?
Yeah, I'll probably go Blades, but I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Lewis just pops him out of nowhere and puts him to sleep. But
well, the thing is,
if he doesn't get the finish on, Blades all day, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously say that in jest, but like, with these heavyweight bouts, ultimately, it can only take one punch or kick, and it's all over anyway. I just think Curtis Blades is going to have too much all round for Derek Lewis, unless Derek Lewis knocks him out.
Yeah, Blades is good.
I just got too much for him all round.
Yeah, I just love Derek Lewis though. You just got to love this guy, and so it's a little bit more from my heart, but he can actually pull it off. So I'm going to stick to my guns with Derek Lewis on this one. Okay,
a couple of other fights we've got Renato Moicano versus Rafael Fiziev. Who you got in that lightweight bout, Dan?
I'm going to go Fiziev, but that's another hard one to predict.
And Luke, Mukano or
playing with
Fiziev?
him in Thailand, that Fiziev, and he didn't have any wrestling at the time because he just transitioned over to MMA. Now he's got the wrestling in check. Definitely, you just knew he was going to be a problem, a bit like Adesanya. So yeah,
okay.
there.
That'd be interesting. And then we've got the female match, which is kind of interesting one. Female flyweight bout. Gina Mazzani versus Rachel Ostovich. Danny, who you got for that one?
I'm going to go Mazzani.
And Luke?
I don't know if I know them guys. I'm out of that.
Okay. And then the last one I'm going to ask you about is Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark. Sorry. Light heavyweight. That'd be quite an interesting one. Devin Clark, I don't think is ranked. I'm going to double check that because he's on their site. It says he's not ranked. Anthony Smith's ranked number 6. So that's a bit of a risk for Anthony Smith, I think.
I just think he's got no choice but to fight someone.
He needs to win, doesn't he?
He's expected to win, and I think this is like a reset fight for him.
Yeah, he's not ranked.
I actually don't know Devin Clark. I don't know what he's like.
I'm sure we watched him recently, Dan. I'm going to just double check now. I'm sure we watched him fight. Brown Bear.
We've watched so many bloody fights. It just don't ping up in my head as one that I can remember.
Well, one thing I will say is Anthony Smith has got to win.
Yeah.
Because he's on a bit of a losing streak. And he can't afford to lose. I mean, to an unranked fighter as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he goes and loses this after on the back of a couple of losses to someone who's not in the rankings, he could be in a bit of trouble. Right, Devon Clark. Let's have a look. I'm sure that he's quite experienced. Like, he's 30. Right, let's have a look. UFC. Who did he fight last? No. So he fought on the Hermansen Weidman card in May against Alonzo Minefield, but it was postponed. Yeah, I mean, the only fight we wouldn't have covered that, I don't think. February this year he fought. He was scheduled to fight Antigulov, but Antigulov was pulled from the event. So he fought Dequan Townsend and he won by unanimous decision. But I mean, his record is not, nothing sort of electric. There's no kind of big scalps in there. There's no real knockouts or anything. So I'm struggling to see why this fight's on, to be honest. Like, not why it's on, but why they've matched these two guys. Like, it doesn't really seem to make too much sense.
I think it's to try and keep Smith active and in there and get back to some kind of relevancy to try and obviously UFC.
Isn't it mad though that he was fighting John Jones not long ago for the title?
I know, but that's the kind of level that UFC is all about. You could be approaching the top of the pile and you can just slip straight down and be at the bottom of it very, very quickly. It's cutthroat out there at that level.
Yeah, so he was supposed to fight Shamil Gamazatov on this card, or he was supposed to fight him in November, and then he was removed, and then they've kind of seemed to have switched it over to Anthony Smith. But Anthony Smith, how many fights he lost, Danny, in a row now? Is it 2 or 3?
3. I think
he's
3.
Lost a couple, haven't he?
Yeah, I think it's 3 now.
He lost to Rakic via a decision in August.
He's a beast. He's going to be the next.
Oh, yeah,
Rakic. Yeah, I like him a lot.
Looks devastating, doesn't
he?
Yeah.
Big boy.
And he lost.
Like Modestus, actually.
It's
Huge legs.
Yeah.
Yes, he also lost to Texera, and he also lost to. No, he beat Gustafsson, so he lost the last 2, but he. Obviously, so he lost to John Jones, then he beat Alexander Gustafsson, and then he lost the 2 versus Texera and Rakic, and then he's fighting Devon Clark on next week's card, which is a bit baffling, but we'll see. Maybe Devon Clark will shock us all But do you, I assume you both think Anthony Smith's winning that, do you?
Yeah, I hope so for his sake.
I'll watch the other guy, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, I need to have a little look at this guy because I probably will remember him once I look back at one of his fights. But I know that Townsend's not bad, and he beat that Townsend. You said, and Townsend ain't a bad fighter.
And there's a couple of guys then. A couple of guys on the prelims to have a little look at next week. Zuma Lagov is quite an interesting one. He's fighting Al-Bazi on the prelims. There's also a Chinese guy on the prelims, which I can't pronounce his name. Muderji, I think is probably wrong. He's a flyweight. He's fighting Malcolm Gordon, which would be a good one. Luke Sanders is fighting. Yeah, there's a few good ones there next week. And also Anderson Dos Santos versus Martin Day in the bantamweight. But yeah, we'll have a good little chat next week, Dan. Luke, thank you, mate, for joining us. Bit of a long one tonight, but I appreciate your time massively, mate. And you've given me some clips as well to put out this week as well to promote the show, which I always appreciate when people do such things. Some nice promotional clips, and you know, if you could spare me 15 minutes at some point, we'll have a little chat about your fight as well in a separate interview. But I know you're a busy man and stuff with everything, so that's all good. But best of luck with the fight, mate. You know, I really hope that after I like Jake Hadley as a fighter a lot. He intrigues me a lot.
I like him too, but it's not going to stop me smashing his face.
Well, I was going to say he's had plenty to say about you, and I look forward to seeing your response, shall we say. Danny, as ever, it is a pleasure.
Yes, it's been fun. Thanks, Luke, for joining us again, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. Good luck for your fight also. I'm damn well looking forward to that one.
Wicked. Cheers.
Spot on. And thank you to everyone who's watched, downloaded, tuned in, everything. We'll be back next Wednesday for another episode of the Danny Batten Fight Show, where we'll be talking Curtis Blades beating Derek Lewis, among other things. But until then, check out Ace Podcast Nation. We've had actor Chris Johnson on recently. We've also had Super Kevin scripted, the football shows, as well as many other things. But nothing comes quite as close to having the current Cage Warriors Flyweight champion, Luke the Apocalypse Shanks, join us. We bid you farewell. Cheers, folks.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny